You're listening to In Response, a legacy podcast. A show where three handsome guys talk about their favorite Magic the Gathering format, Legacy. This show is brought to you by createness.anycost.com and austrian-legacy.com. You can support the show at patreon.com/response_legacy. And now, lean back and enjoy.
Hello everyone and welcome to a New Year's special episode. 20 years of legacy of
In Response,
A Legacy Podcast.
I'm Philip Klein
I am Daniel.
And I'm Peter Plank.
and we're talking about the timeline of legacy.
Exactly this time.
So guys, actually we are here for a little bit. Normally we are doing a Christmas special, but this time we thought, why don't we just do something different? We are doing now a New Year's special, so hopefully you all had a great evening last night. Have drunken a little bit, hopefully not too much, and don't have a headache right now while you're listening to this. But actually, we think now that the 20th birthday of Legacy is basically right around the corner. Why don't we do something like that and revisit the last 20 years of our awesome format?
I think this is a very nice opportunity because, you said it. It's the year 2024 and it's been exactly 20 years. Well, not exactly, but
Almost.
almost. Since the format, it was not actually formed, but it was renamed and changed to Legacy. The name Legacy popped up in like 20 years ago almost, and we thought, let's revisit, as you said, the decks. And we made a little bit of a timeline and tried to structure it a little bit in different eras. Give you a little bit of milestones and a little bit of the historical background of Legacy.
But before we hop into the topic of the day, let's thank our great sponsors and Patreon. Thank you, Matt Duncan, Christian Neutz, and Moritz Eichmar for your support. If you want to join these elite ranks of Patreon supporters, support us on patreon.com/responselegacy.
And right back onto the topic, I think when we start with 2004, we give just a brief 30 seconds intro how Legacy was formed. There was previously the Stone Age of Legacy. There was a special format called Type 1.5.
It was basic. Don't call it Stone Age. It was the Mox Age.
It was the Mox Age of Legacy.
I like it.
Magic the Gathering. It was like
Yeah.
Type 1.5. The ban list was tied to Vintage, previously known as Type 1, which was also, I think, renamed in 2004.
Yeah.
And yeah, basically we had the same shared list. Every card that was like only be played as a one-off in Vintage was banned in Legacy.
Exactly, yeah. So they established a new format out of new rules, and Legacy was born kind of and unreleased from the titans of Vintage.
Unchained.
And then I don't know, when looking through this original data and constructing the timeline, I had a lot of fun. There were so many nice decks and cards that I actually never seen myself before, because I guess for all of us it is true that we never played or didn't play Legacy at the time.
Not.
Not at this time.
Not this
not
time, right?
for sure, yeah.
So it is very curious I think it's very nice to see how Legacy actually looked like at the start from when it was established.
At first, do you guys know how the names for the formats got together?
Good question. How? I don't know. Do we know why it was chosen Legacy?
I think there was something like a community poll on the mothership,
Okay.
and I'm pretty sure that Legacy won closely to Eternal, which then became later the
Concept for both formats.
yeah. I think it was something like that. If some of the listeners know this better than we are, or than we do, just give us a heads up and
But
write us.
It sounds reasonable, like they said it, and Eternal still is in the mind of everybody because we're talking about Eternal formats right now, which is everything that is non-rotating at this point. So yeah, it still holds its value also as a name for that. But I would say we can start off with the origins, let's say, of Legacy. As already teased, it was 2004. Type 1.
September.
In September, exactly.
September is the birthday of Legacy.
Yeah.
Which we are a little bit too soon, but
it's fine. It's the same year. We can live with that, I would say.
For sure.
And Legacy was born, and I think we should talk now and start with this first era of Legacy that when what was kind of happening. And of course, like every format, we recently saw it also with something like Pioneer, for example. That was one of the more recent formats that Wizard established. The format has to evolve at some point of time. So we have this period from 2004 to 2010 something. This is actually a pretty long period. But in this period, Legacy established itself and kind of tightened and I'm speaking of the ban list now. A lot of cards were banned, unbanned. It was shifted around.
It was a very, very wild time actually, and I unfortunately didn't. I just played a little bit back then, but it was really the Wild West out there.
Yeah. What I think one of the highlights that we can mention. Yes, Peter, you have it already. We pulled up some data also. We have one of the first archetypes, the tempo kind of archetype was Threshold. It is back first when Legacy was established, one of the main aggro decks or tempo decks. And Force of Will and Days were in there. But the tempo was, the tempo cards were Nimble Mongoose, one of the example, or Werebear as one of the threats that they were played.
And also Tarmogoyf.
Tarmogoyf, yeah. This was actually one of the later versions. Originally it was Bunt, it was without red.
Ah, so you have to go back there.
So in the first couple of years, but so we actually had something like, how is it called? We had like Meddling Mage, Mystic Enforcer, Sword Supplanter, and Worship in the main deck.
So this looks pretty much like a pre-modern deck right now.
Yeah.
Very, very beautiful cards. I
Just with Forces and Daisies, yeah.
Mystic Enforcer is just such a nice card.
Fledgling Dragon.
Yeah.
We're just looking at the deck list.
It's so sweet how old the cards look. And we even have GP Philadelphia 2005. We have Crispy Cool in the top 8 with
That guy Ale. Oh, yeah.
The old game Dark Ritual into Hypnotic Spectre.
Wow.
And Dark Confident.
And Dark Confident.
Actually looks like a pretty nice deck, even well it could change a little bit, but it looks pretty powerful.
This one looks exactly like a list that you play in pre-modern.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one looks exactly like something I would play all the time.
Yeah.
Always.
Now
So we already see like the earliest or the best strategies evolved, like an aggro deck. That is for sure like any format that is new. Threshold was already kind of this Delver deck to say, but with different threats, of course. But the Shell of Days and Force of Will was already there.
And also, what I really love about this list is that the mana bases really look like the Delver mana bases right now.
Yeah.
When we go back to Grand Prix Lille 2005, which was won by Helmut Summersberger, one of our fellow Austrians.
Yes.
We can see 18 lands with 12 fetch lands, 3 volcanic islands. I mean, this just screams Delver to me. Although it has no wastelands right now, but this is just Delver.
That is true. No wastelands, that's for sure.
Yeah, and this is actually the era where we didn't have the printing of the allied fetch lands.
Oh, wow.
So there were only 8 possible fetch lands for those decks. So we've seen, for example, Crampelil, we have 10 dual lands.
10 duels. I thought it was 12 fetches and 6 duels.
One thing for listeners, if you didn't already do it, scroll into the description of the podcast. There will be a link to a Google Drive folder.
Yeah.
And here you have access to the lists, to the links that we have, and so you can revisit the decks yourself while listening to us.
Exactly. But this was like the early stages of Legacy. And I think over the years, the kind of the archetypes or deck, if you go back to the timeline, kind of evolved. And
we see now in 2006.
Yeah, like over the years, kind of, it built it up. One of the main archetypes was, of course, Threshold, and Goblins, for example, or Dredge was one of the earliest graveyard strategies that we, for example, see.
Which was called Icarid back then, because we didn't have no red return or bridge from below right now, because Time Spiral wasn't there.
Exactly, yeah.
But Icarid with the dredge cards was already a really, really good archetype. And what's also right in this era was Flash Hulk.
Yeah, okay. Can you explain the deck? What was the strategy about it?
It's that's a hard question.
But Flash as a card was banned after its prominent. What is the card Flash? Because this was...
It's for 2 mana an instant. You can put a creature card from your hand into play and then pay its mana cost reduced by 2 generic mana. If you can't, you sacrifice it. And what's happening right now is you put the Protean Hulk into play, it gets sacrificed, and then you can search your library for up to 6 CMC or converted mana cost of creatures and put them into play. And this basically allowed an infinite loop with Karmic Guide. Is it Karmic Guide?
Karmic Guide, yeah.
And Karen Feeder.
Karmic Guide, Karen Feeder, and Body Snatcher, as far as I know. Something like that. And
you have Kiki Chiki, you make copies.
And then you'd simply attack.
Yeah.
That was basically the plan. And what's really funny is that one of the worst matchup that Hulk Flash had was Goblins.
Yeah,
because of simply one card, because of Goblin Sharpshooter, because you had to go through the loops and sacrificing your dudes to get more of them, and simply always get to sacrifice it. And if you could deploy a Goblin Sharpshooter, you simply shoot your Flash Hulk opponent down to 0.
Okay, I see this. Of course, yes.
Funnily enough, this was the time when I got into more competitive Magic, where I went to GP Florence.
Yeah.
And
so this was 2007 around, or 2006?
2006, 2007. And this was also the time where I dipped my toes into Legacy for the first time. I was fascinated by High Tide.
Oh yeah, was a pretty old strategy.
Yeah, and Time Spiral was still banned at this time. Yeah. And so there was a budget deck. I didn't play the Solidarity, the reset, because resets were expensive because I was in school. And I built myself this Fairy Tide with Cloud of Fairies and Snap. And this was also just very funny
combo
thing to do. Yeah.
Sounds very nice.
And yeah, one big event that we also had in 2007 was like Worlds.
A World Championship, yes.
World Championship
in Legacy.
Yes.
And there was one breakout deck there that we may now know as Cephalid Breakfast.
I love it.
But this one
very old,
quite different.
Yeah, but it actually does it. When I have a look at this deck, it's pretty similar. I would say
the engine is the same.
The engine is basically the same.
But with a pre-modern finisher in there, in Sorcered Ghoul,
Sutured Ghoul, yeah.
which is a finisher that we know from Full English Breakfast. Sutured Ghoul, you can, when it enters the battlefield, you exile any number of creatures from your graveyard. And power and toughness is equal to the power and the toughness of the cards that you exiled with it.
Right.
And when it comes back from the battlefield, from the graveyard to the battlefield, you get it equipped with a Dragon's Breath, which will give it haste, and then you attack for lethal.
Oh,
Yeah.
very nice. I actually like it.
So you can pair this with just Dread Return.
Yeah.
When you mill it, this is the win con.
And
You could try this in your...
Just for flavor.
Yeah, just for the lols.
Yeah, one of the oldest strategies or oldest version of the deck.
yeah, and you basically exile a few Tarmogoyfs and the cards that you have in your graveyard, and swing for the win.
Very nice.
Sounds really great. I mean, we had... What is this? 4 Cephalid breakfast in the top 8?
I mean, you have access to 4 Worldly Tutor in there,
Yeah.
which is kind of good card.
Yeah.
And one of two of the players that got to 15 points and were like the best in the legacy portion were Paulo Vito Dama de Rosa, Yuta Takahashi. So it's like the best players were playing.
Yep. Because
Cephalid
it
breakfast.
was a Worlds format, in that time. So
All big names are playing
Yeah.
Legacy back then.
very, very nice time for this kind of deck. But yeah, as we see, it is very fluctuating. There were a lot of bans also, and a couple of adjustments over the years. Charizard.
Got banned. I mean, what took them so long?
Yeah, it was a surprise. 3 years, come on. Time Vault was banned then in 2008.
And we got unbanned Replenish and Mind Over Matter.
Both cards simply haven't done anything, am I right?
I think so too, but this is like what I said, from 2004 to 2010, Wizards wanted to make sure that the ban list is in a reasonable shape. It was just, brought overs from Vintage that were on the reserved list, and then you would just take a look what you really need to ban and what you can just unban because, they were just doing nothing. And one big unban, I think, is what we see in 2009, Entomb.
And Tomb. Oh my god. I think this is...
Yeah. One
This
of the big enablers for graveyard strategies.
That's probably the biggest thing shaping up the future of Legacy in 2009. Because people, we come to this, but Innistrad isn't that far away. And with it comes one of the, probably the best creature in the game.
Better known as Black Daddy or Grizzle Daddy or Grizzle Brand.
Or Ice Scoop goes to the next game.
But yeah, so we are still in 2009. Also, Dream Halls was unbanned, which has had a little bit of a resurgence with the Mono Blue Omnitel decks during the Khans era, or
But not so much, a little bit,
just before the Khans
Yeah.
era, something like that, where it got played in the sideboard.
Here, I think what is really nice in this 2009, 2010 era, we see the first iteration of Countertop. Here you can see it was originally called Next Level Blue. For example, here this version that won GP Chicago 2019 from Gabriel Nassif. It played the full playsets of Senses Divining Top and Counterbalance in a control shell. So, yeah, very nice deck, I think. A lot of tools that we don't really could wrap our heads at this point in time, but this deck I think looks very nice.
And why? I mean, the Vidalcan Shackles and the Trigon Predators are pretty straightforward, am I right?
Pretty common, yeah.
And
Are straightforward. I mean, Trigon Predators were for opposing counterbalance and tops.
Yeah. Shackles was nice magic card.
Yeah.
Really love it, yeah.
one thing that we kind of can mention here is like that the amount of ponders in the decks are fluctuating.
Oh yeah, 2 ponders. I mean, 4 brainstorms are set, but 2 ponders?
And on the other hand, we have like Andrew Probasco with 3-pounder, for example. This was like the time where there was not really any set deck list and stuff like that. So
No.
was really, really all fluctuating. Then we have like in 5th place or 6th place, Tamo Pikula. It's also, is it like, this was
It's like that
basically,
guy,
it's-
Ilya.
was basically that game from Brian Covell. A few of you may know him. He's like one of the broadcasters from the Cloud Code Ranger, I think. He's basically one of the figures in Premodern. Yeah,
What's Mesmeric Fiend? Just show me.
it's you
It's a
exile a card
pre-modern
on
card.
it.
It's a pre-modern card.
Wow.
Yeah,
Sounds
It
full of
was
fiends
the
got
first.
played.
Well, besides Thoughtseize, a nice Duress effect. Yeah.
And free Tombstalker.
Yeah.
Wow. Tombstalker. I really miss this card.
It comes later also in the timeline.
yeah. Then we have Bazaar of Mox.
Moxen.
Yes.
That was a nice duet, Peter.
Yeah. And here we see one face that we may see for future Magic events on 7th place on the blue, red, green fish, which is basically, yeah, how do we say it? It's like,
It's actually a Ferris.
it's Ferris with Ninja of the Deep Hours, Cloud of Ferris, Tarmogoyf, with Standstill, with Mutavault, Mishra's Factory, all over the place. Looks really insane from Angelo Kadai, future GP winner, and
Yep.
we will hear, think, a few more times from him.
And I think this is also the first time Dragon Stompy
Yeah.
surfaced.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the strategy behind City of Traitors, Ancient Tomb, and then also having a Chalice of the Void and Blood Moon effect paired with Trinsphere. This is one of the older strategies that came up during this years. But the threats just differed heavily. It was not just a straight up, it was a Dragon Stompy deck called for a reason, because we have Rakdos Pit Dragon, for example. This is the card, this is the reason why it was called Dragon Stompy.
But do you know Gafen, right?
Gaffen Riders, yeah.
Yeah,
This was Legacy Power level?
this was just the best.
This was
As 3 mana 5/5, yeah.
yeah, it's a 3 mana 5, 3/3,
Yeah,
and it's basically this deck just showed the world the power of turn 1 Chalice of the Void paired with Blood Moon and Magus of the Moon.
yeah. And then you just
And-
need a finisher.
It's simply the deck didn't care back then.
Yeah.
What kind of finisher? They played things like I said, the Gaffen Raiders, which are just not good. The deck played the Rakdos Pit Dragon, which is also just dumb.
Yeah, man, to put this bit into perspective, these were the best things you can do in red.
Yeah.
And it is not good, but it was, for this strategy, it's fine. It's okay. In this case, for example, it was first place. You just need any finisher. And Rakdos Pit Dragon. So for anyone wondering why this deck is called Dragon Stompy, this is the reason.
Because of Rakdos Pit Dragon.
Yeah.
Peter is now looking at nauseam lists.
Yeah, basically, was it Nauseam Tendrils also born basically in 2009?
Yeah, it was earlier than that, 2007-8, I think. But it was a pretty old strategy. Ad Nauseam was one of the main engines, and Infernal Tutor was already legal. Yeah, so you could pair it nicely with Lion's Eye Diamond.
And basically, the deck that ANT evolved out of was Iggy Pop, which was basically Ill-Gotten Gains Infernal Tutor chain into Tendrils of Agony, which worked really well, but Ad Nauseam was just better.
Yeah. In the end, it turned out to be the best shell.
Yeah, and one thing that we can also see in 2009 was Imperial Painter from Filiberto Pianoli. But this one is strange. This one plays 4 Tarmogoyf, 4 Trinket Mages, a Vexing Shasha. Do you know what this does?
Yeah. It makes things uncomfortable.
It makes a non-creature spell uncounterable. if you remember correctly.
I'm not
Target
sure if,
spell can't be countered.
if this is the standard shell, to be honest. But it was one shell, yeah, at some point.
We do not see any Goblin Welders,
Yeah.
for example. So it was really, but
It
it
was-
was using Painter Servant with 6 blast effects in the main deck.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just one grindstone, so they weren't really high on the combo kill.
Yep.
Yeah, for a trinket mage, but they weren't really high on the combo kill. And yeah, no Goblin Welders because there weren't so much artifacts. Moxopal wasn't printed yet.
Yeah. Also not so much.
This one is insane. It's played Lavan, the Lavan lock.
Cephalid Empress. When it enters the battlefield, you return all blue creatures your opponents control to their owner's hands, which is funny if a painter says blue, and
Yeah.
the opponent can't play blue creature spells.
Yeah.
Well, Painter, now you have Peter. Peter, now you have a New Year's resolution to do. Play
Yeah.
Lavan.
Exactly.
No.
But yeah, in the next year, we start to see big events popping up for Legacy. 2010 was really the ballpark of SCG events popping up. So there was the SCG Tour that featured Legacy as a format. And a lot of GPs and Bazaar of Moxon took up steam, and the format was really booming, I would say, at this point.
Yeah.
And it was very healthy. There's a lot of different archetypes that we mentioned. Even like Bazaar of Moxon 4 in 2010, we have Merfolk in first place. This really
Out
shows
of 500 players.
out of 500 players. So this format really was open and fine. But Merfolk was a good strategy in Legacy, yeah.
And the list is insanely clean. This is
Yeah.
just 4-offs. Very beautiful.
Yep.
Very nice to
Pretty nice, yeah.
look at.
Wafu Tapo with blue-white land still in top 4.
Yeah. Pretty classic for his kind of style. It is kind of no counterbalance.
No counterbalance.
But humility, standstill,
With Elspeth, Knights Errant.
Yeah.
chase. And really, what I love about this here is Wrath of God and Day of Judgment. These are cards that really throw me back to my casual days.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is just I can remember myself when I was at GP Florence signing my Wrath of Gods and Damnations
Yeah.
by Kev Walker.
Yeah.
Oh, I was so insanely proud.
Yeah.
It was just really nice to be there.
Yeah, and what we can see is also like Crows and Crypts splashed as an answer, because there were not really that many answers to Planeswalkers now. So this was kind of the phase where we got the new card type basically, but we have a few answers to them, but not really that many, because this was also the era most of you may remember when you had like bolt effects, you had to target your opponent and redirect it to those.
Yeah.
So basically, if you couldn't target your opponent with a bolt, you couldn't remove with damage, without creature damage, the Planeswalker. So it was a really, really interesting phase where
The Planeswalker was just really strong at this
Yeah.
point in time. Yeah, absolutely. Chase. I think Chase at this point was one of the best Planeswalkers ever. Yeah.
And also we have here Bane Slayer Angel running
Yeah.
Rampart.
The best bomb. Come on. This is just the control deck. You just want to have a Baneslayer Angel. Finish up your opponent.
yeah.
Best
It's
card ever.
unplayable in today's meta.
And what we here see in 9th place is Band Countertop.
With Rock Swarmonk. Oh, beautiful, beautiful.
But we see the combo of counterplane balance and Senses Divining Top slowly creeping up.
Well, it was already like 3 years ago. So it was coming.
An
to-
established archetype
Yeah, yeah.
countertop, yeah.
The first one was Next Level Blue
But-
that we had to
but-
look at.
Here we can see the advent of lands as a deck. Can you go back?
Sure.
Because back
Eternal
then it
Garden.
was called Eternal Garden.
Yeah.
And 4 life from the loam, 37 lands. and you won with the Mindslaver lock.
How was the lock? You activated it and then
You get the turn of your opponent,
yeah.
and then you have an Academy Ruins in play and put
Okay,
it
yeah,
on
put it on
your
top.
and then basically you
Redraw
control your
it, yeah.
opponent, and that's basically game with the
It's a
Mindslaver
lock.
lock.
Yeah, if your opponent can interact. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was Eternal Garden, now called Lands.
Very nice. Very nice.
And also we have here the last remaining pieces of Survival of the Fittest, because this deck got banned in this year.
Yeah. Survival turned out to be too strong and got banned. I don't know which month it was, but it was 2010. And yeah, slowly after that, we got into. I would call it the main era of Legacy, or like the heart of Legacy, kind of. Or
the golden era. It was the golden
exactly,
era.
the golden era. Yeah, exactly. Which was the era of, let's say, 2010 to 2017, something, or after the ban or of Survival.
Yeah, it was at first we had the Scars of Mirrodin block,
Yeah.
which really threw everything around with Mental Misstep, and everyone had to just jam 4 Mental Missteps in their deck to
Yeah.
counter the Mental Missteps.
Yes,
And it was basically everywhere
exactly.
until it got banned. for the
2011. Yeah.
for the better, for sure. And what we have here in
We have like the most events gathering piling up in this era. We have really a yearly a full set of SCG tours, GPs, and I think Worlds, or even like something like this, for legacy events. And what it really showed that the best kind of strategies that were establishing over the first couple of years showed up more and better results. And the legacy format was really booming. So this was the golden age of especially counter top, like Miracles as an archetype really solidified during this time. And we have a lot of different archetypes that
Green Sun Zenith was a card that was printed back then. Hive Mind was the premier combo deck. Also, Natural Order into Progenitus was strong, and also standard legal competitor was Careblade.
Yeah.
Careblade with Stoneforge Mystic.
Stoneforge Mystic, blue white, just straight up the box, basically chase, Stoneforge package, Stoneblade kind of first versions.
Yeah, this was basically a legacy deck in standard.
Yeah.
Just missing forces and brain cells, but the power level was there, and also this solidified Stoneblade also as a deck in legacy.
Exactly.
Because the power was there in standard, and people were trying it out in legacy.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
also, what fancy thing we can see in the top 8 of Grand Providence is like Lynxu with Steplings, Landfall +2/+2.
And Wildner Cuttles.
With Wildner Cartel, Tarmogoyfs, Kasali Pride Mages.
It was just two. Yeah.
It's basically Sue. And
Unfortunately, Sue is simply not an archetype anymore.
No, it was in the earlier days. Like we saw a couple of lists in 2006 or something, or 5, being played. But it pops up here, but it's not really a too big of an archetype for this legacy game.
At first a little bit tried, but then left behind. One thing in GP Providence is like Wilson Hunter. Few of you may know him. He's like one of the guys that played a lot with Anurag Das in the SCG era and stuff like that. And I think he was on, I don't remember the podcast, and maybe even the co-founder together with James for a few of his
I'm pretty sure it was Elo Hunters. Or
on Elo Hunters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the first podcast of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. and he played Goblin Welder together with Painter Servant, but in a blue shell with Brainstorm, Force of Will, Intuition, with
Mental
Transmute,
missteps, transmute artifact.
What I
Four
also
Senses, Divining
And
Heart.
just one Power Blast and one Red Elemental Blast.
and during this time from 2011 onwards, we also see one really nice kind of deck that you certainly have heard about. It is Team America.
Yeah.
Are we 2011 now? Okay, 2011 for sure.
Team America this was the Delver version with Tombstalker, right?
Yeah.
It was
Yep.
because in September or something, 2011, this was when Innistrad came out. And Innistrad really threw the whole game around. Even more so than Scars did.
Exactly,
Because Innistrad, we had all the heavy hitters.
Yeah.
We had Faithless Looting, Grizzlebrand, Thalia, Garden of Thraben, and maybe the Delve of Secrets, and the best thing for a long time, Snapcaster Mage.
Value
So-
card doubles up as any removal or counter spell or whatever you want to have.
And this was, also Grizzlebrand was, suddenly Reanimator had the best
Yep.
creature ever.
Yep.
We had the best one drop ever. We had the best control card in Snapcaster Mage.
And
This was-
Terminus? Am I right?
Terminus was 2012.
Terminus was a year later.
So I wanted to just wait a little bit for this kind of.
Yeah, and here it's called characterizes Team Portugal, but basically Team
It
America
is America, yeah.
with Delver,
Bug.
Snapcaster Mage.
Yep, Bug.
It's basically the Bug Delver origin with Hymn to Turax.
But this is the important thing. Bug Delver is not automatically Team America. Team America has to have Tombstalker and Hymn to Turak,
Okay.
I think.
Okay, then it's Team America because it is Tombstalker and Hunter.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, specifically, Tombstalker is important for Team America.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I get this. I mean, Tombstalker was just such a big, nice hitter.
Yeah.
And it won basically
Like the original one, let's say.
the mirror. It won the mirror.
Yeah.
Because the two big Delver decks were Canadian Threshold,
Threshold, yeah.
which was a little bit faster. But as we all know, if you play the same basically archetype and you go a little bit bigger, then you always are favored in the mirror. And that's basically what Team America did right here.
Yep.
In Canadian Trash, you just had the Nimble Mongoose, the Delve of Secrets, the Tarmogoyf, and with the addition of Tombstalker, you just had the better mid-range game, the better late game.
Yes.
And you were just so favored.
Absolutely.
And what we also see in 2011 was like the Ruck Natural Order versions with Progenitors popping up, performed also by Reed Truk in the previous GP, which was also something that you can do and attack on a little bit of a different angle to drop in the bigger creature at any point of the game.
Let's see, 2012.
This was the advent of how was that that set called? Evers in Return or something?
Yeah.
Terminus, Entreat the Angels.
So Miracles really was there. It was actually born, right? Because it was countertop before, and now it is really Miracles.
Yeah, because there were no miracle
Of
cards
course.
before.
Yes. Terminus, Entreat the Angels, and we still have Ant as a combo deck. And I think what you should highlight from this year, because it had not been showing up before, is a strategy like Maverick.
Oh yeah, Maverick with Green Sun, Zenith, and Thalia.
Yeah.
Suddenly this deck simply, not just simply scooped up to combo with Thalia, and they had suddenly a game plan.
Yeah.
And back then it was also there were two kinds of Maverick decks. The first one was Green Sun Zenith based, and
Yeah.
the second one was Aether Vial based.
Mm-hmm.
In the long run, we all know what happened. Maverick is the better Green Sun Zenith deck, and Death in Texas,
Yeah.
which also, with the addition of Ophalia, Gordon of Fraben, was the better Aether Vial deck.
I think this is actually pretty nice to see if you have a look over the years of this timeline. We really get to see which card enabled which kind of archetypes. And Thalia, Guardian of Traben, was really an important card for two different decks that established over the course of the years. Without Thalia, there would not be a Death in Texas at this point, or like this Maverick deck.
Yeah, for sure.
And this is really amazing to see.
We really, or every non-blue deck really needed these cards, because we had things like Sneak Attack, Doomsday,
Yeah.
and actually you're just so much game suddenly against blue with just the inclusion of Thalia, because your best bet or your worst enemy, let's phrase it right like this, your worst enemy when playing Canadian Threshold was Death in Texas, because you just couldn't win.
Yeah.
This was an 80-20 or 90-10 matchup back then.
Yeah. And Thalia certainly was an important factor in
It was
this. kind of
Thalia
deck.
and Wasteland was the card
Yeah.
that you needed against Canadian Thresh.
Yeah. And I think when we look at the next couple of years, there's not too much that changed in terms of legacy. 2013, 2014, the meta was kind of the same. There was no really bans or armbands coming. This was actually the time where I started playing Legacy. So now I come into this picture. Like Philip was already there for a couple of years.
I started in 2011 or
Yeah.
2012. I'm unsure.
Yeah.
I knew that Innistrad was already out,
Yeah.
but Evers in Return wasn't. Or what was the second? Dark Ascension. I started with Dark Ascension. That was the set.
And I started then in 2014, and it was around the Khans of Tarkir era, which were actually fostered a couple of very important bans, which were the bans of Treasure Cruise and Dig Through Time. Of course, two cards that were just completely nonsense, and the format didn't look great at this time.
Funnily enough, I played Death in Texas back then, for sure. And I got totally demolished by Treasure Cruise, by Blue Red Treasure Cruise Delver.
Yeah.
And that had a little bit of sour taste in my mouth, and it didn't really play a lot during the next couple of months. So I totally missed the omnipotence of Dig Through Time in Sneak and Show or Show and Tell, or Omnitel.
Yeah.
I totally missed these months.
Yeah. I mean, it was potent in any blue deck for sure also. So, Control and Delver, but it was completely bonkers. Anything that people were playing splashing blue just because of these cards.
People are playing blue, splashing blue just because of Dig Through Time?
Yeah, sometimes, yes. Definitely.
For Treasure Cruise, I know, but for...
Yeah, for Treasure Cruise, yeah.
But for Dig Through Time
Dig Through
also?
Time, less so, but it still was a very impactful and strong card.
Wow.
Absolutely.
So we have in 2005, just to see some results.
15.
15? 15.
Gabriel, Claudio Bonanni with Monastery Mentor. Miracles.
Friend of the show.
It was like we have the
Advent of
information.
Infect.
Yeah. Infect, Become a Man, Stick for Time. Only as a one-off.
One Dig Through Time. That can't be right.
What I like about this year, you can see it, I think, a little bit lower. It was, I think, one of the times where Shardless Bug was booming.
Yeah, for
Shardless Bug was one of the decks that, because of Shardless Agent and Ancestral Vision, One of the combos that just was just immense value. A very nice historical deck that performed quite well during this time.
Yeah, unfortunately, Shadowspark isn't a deck anymore.
Yeah,
The closest thing now is Rhinos,
yeah.
because Crashing Footfalls is just a better Ancestral Vision. I mean, it sounds strange, but
It's yeah.
it actually is like that.
Yeah, but I think for me, if I would have played this, I mean, I played during this time, but I invested into a cheaper deck. But I really always wanted to play Shadowspark, Death Shaman.
Shadowless Agent Tamogorg.
Yeah,
Oh, Ancestral Vision.
Yes, Abrupt Decay. This was one of the premium removal spells in this time.
The one of Pond in the main deck of Tristan Pearl.
Oh, that's just... Oh, that hurts. One of Ponder.
Yeah, but you're playing basically... I mean, Abrupt Decay you need as a removal to maybe spin into from the Shardless Agent, but then Maelstrom pulls conveniently at 3 so it doesn't get hit by the Shardless Agent.
Yeah.
And so many good cards. Sylvan Library, all-time great of the format.
I think you could certainly cut the 2 Chase the Mind Sculptor for 2 Ponder.
I think in the later versions they did just go for Brainstorm and Ponder.
Yeah.
The Shardless decks, yeah. But they tried to go maximum on Ancestral Vision, on just getting the value.
Wasn't that also the time where Miracle players fought against each other if it's right to play 3 or 4 Ponders? Or
No,
even
this
yeah.
was... I think this was previous, like at 2010 era.
No. It was not. It was certainly 214 or 215. I know this because I met Philipp Schönecker in Linz at a qualifying tournament for the
Austrian Legacy Championship.
For the Austrian Legacy Championship, yeah. And there he played his first or second iteration of Miracles against me, where I lost completely. I mean, he's a great player, but this list still had Rest in Peace main deck and Muta Vaults and Mishra's Factory main, and this was just a totally strange build. And I think it was this era where the people, the Miracles community, were fighting each other.
Okay.
How many Ponders is the correct play? And I think Philipp Schönecker was the first and the biggest fighter for 4 Ponders. Which we all know is the correct way to do.
From this point of view, absolutely.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Do we have any other big... I mean, Grixis Delver from Bockholm at the Legacy Championship in... which is basically something that we see in the late stages, 2017-18, Death Shaman, Gormag Angler with Young Pyromancer in the mix, like going a little bit over the top of the traditional Canadian Threshold and Blue-Red Delver decks, now with the big creature in Gormag Angler. Really sweet to see those.
Yeah.
And also, I think this is the only good showing of Splinter Twin that I have ever seen in Legacy.
Twin is,
it's a top 8 out of 742 players. This is the 2015 Legacy Championship by Max Ansbro.
it was just never really a good strategy, no. But here, it's nice that it showed and reached top 8 for just a short period. A little bit of a highlight.
And then the unthinkable happened. Oh, no.
We had a whole
year. Okay.
So
Okay, let's go.
This was now from 2016 to 17. The whole situation really piled up, and Miracles was everywhere.
And basically, like in 2016, we in the middle of the year we have like one of the most watched games that we have of GP coverage. Finals: Rodrigo Togores versus Nicolas Solans. Storm, ANT versus Miracles.
I think up to this point, for me, but of course I'm biased because I'm a heavy Storm fan. This is the best match of Magic that I have ever watched.
Okay.
This is for me absolutely. You can watch it on YouTube. There's the VOD anytime. Also with this very, very nice commentary of Simon Gertzen was commentating it. Very, very high level, very, very nice event, and this match is insane, absolutely insane. I think for just historical aficionados, it doesn't matter if you're a Miracle Storm fan or if you're into Legacy, is a must watch.
How about we
Absolute.
put this link into a show notes?
Absolutely, yes. It's a must watch.
It's insane.
It's really nice.
Also,
Really
here
nice.
is the first really big showing of the new Death in Texas deck. In that this was the time where Death in Texas was mostly laughed at by the community, because how can you play or win with white weenies?
Yeah.
Only Canadian Trash player feared it. Everybody else was just like, this deck is this just sucks. And then suddenly Thomas Enevoldsen, the Danish player, comes around and gets into the semi-finals with Death in Texas.
What is the big change from the previous iterations? There was not really a big print, right? That made the archetype better.
No, I don't think so.
They adopted Sarah Avenger.
No, Sarah Avenger was actually pretty much since the beginning in the deck, and they played the thing is, this deck really had a great Miracles matchup.
Yes,
because the only thing you needed was Thalia, a Caracas, and the Sword of Fire and Ice, and you were good to go.
Yeah.
And if you put the Aether Violent 2 additionally in it,
you cannot lose.
It was 100% matchup then.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about 4 cards, but some of them you can search for.
Yeah. And I also think this year was, from my experiments, one of the best years of Legacy all time.
For sure. I also think, I also think about the time sometimes, because that was maybe the time where I had the most fun.
Yeah, me too.
Playing Magic. It's just, I didn't really win a lot, but it was the first time I started to win.
Yeah.
Playing for 4 years, and then suddenly getting really the grasp of everything, and the skill set seemed to improve a lot. And this was really great.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But then I think it happened. Am I right?
Then 2017 in April, SDD, Senses Divining Top, got the axe, got the banhammer.
I think this was a big shock to the community.
It was an extreme shock, because I was dipping my toes into That Guy Ale at that moment, and this deck played 2 Senses Divining Top just to fix up draws with Dark Confident.
Yeah.
And That Guy Ale got hit by that ban, Painter got hit by that ban, Doomsday got hit by the ban, Storm. So many decks got hit by Sensei's Divining Top.
Yeah.
It was just...
And I was about to pick up my Storm deck with Seven Senses Divining Top, because I saw this winning video of Rodrigo Torgores, and I was just hooked by Storm. But it was banned.
So suddenly... no more Senses Divining Top for anybody.
Yeah. But it was really...
And this totally killed the Miracles archetype for a long time.
Yeah.
And suddenly my best matchup at that time went away.
Yeah.
One thing that we can mention here is, like, in March there was Eternal Extravaganza 6, where in the finals Anurag Das played against Bob Wang, mostly two known guys, and they played 74 cards from 75 cards, exactly the same.
Yeah.
The difference is Anurag Das played the 4th Predict, and Bob Wang played in the main deck the 3rd Snapcaster Mage over the 4th Predict.
Yeah.
So, like, Miracles was on top of the format there, and it was not only that Miracles was like the best deck in Legacy, it was also a little bit problematic because like if you are not that experienced with your deck, it is a lot of action that you have to do with the Senses Divining Top. So it was not only banned for power level reasons, but for organizational reasons as
I
well.
will die on that hill that for power level reasons it wouldn't have been a problem.
Could be the case. Could be the case. Maybe it is more this tedious watching that for every occasion, activate top, look at the top 3, activate top, look at the top 3. They did it basically for every single action, and it was not really a nice, watchable experience for viewers.
That's
So,
true.
I guess this is a big factor for this card.
In that case, I totally understand the ban, for sure. But for power level reasons, I'm pretty sure that it was the wrong call.
And interestingly, I think since this top ban was happening, it kind of unveiled 2 cards that have been present for years in Legacy, but suddenly became pretty good.
You mean the Probe and
Yes.
the Shaman?
The Shaman and the
Death
Probe.
Right Shaman,
Yes.
Gitaxian Probe.
Yeah.
And isn't this also the advent of Death Shadow?
No,
No, not yet.
Not yet?
this is not yet.
Yeah.
Death Shadow comes with a very special tournament. It was the team event of
But we
Magic
talk
20.
about it
We
later.
will talk about it. Yeah. So we are now in. Yeah, it aligns a little bit. 2018, in the middle of the year. This was actually, I started at December 2017 with Legacy. Started off with Blue Red Delver, and then quickly moved into Blue Red Dreadnought. So I enjoyed my few events with Gitaxian Probe, and then it got the X, and I started playing without it. And then we had
This was also, I just had to say this, this was also the time where I tied around with probably one of the most fun decks I had ever played, Mardu Pyromancer in Legacy with Gitaxian Probe and Death Right Shaman. And this was just so beautiful.
Yeah.
And the good counterpart to the Mardu version is like the Grixis Pyromancer version that we had running around. Tristan Purcell in the top 8 of MKM Frankfurt, which is basically Delverless Delver, where we have Young Pyromancer, Snapcaster Mage, and Gormag Angler as the threat base, and Young Pyromancer is basically used to put out a
lot of
really
tokens,
load of tokens, and it used basically the combo of Gitaxian Probe, which got soon the X, and Cabal Therapy for the instant 2 for 1, and you get an additional creature on top of Pyromancer.
I loved it.
Best thing ever,
Yeah. I also played this in Mardu, and it was just so great.
And I think for this exact event, this is very important. This MKM Frankfurt, the first place, is really the showing of the one of the births that also led to the banning of the Death Right Shaman. This beloved or behated, whatever side you are on, this check pile, 4-color control.
Actually, I can influence here. Checkpal won the OVO 11 in 2016 already.
Yeah.
Also performed by Thomas Schmar. So it was basically the second win from him with 4-color control, the greediest of the greedy piles.
Thomas Schmar was always the creator of the deck, but this era in combination of Death Right Shaman and top being banned really showed how powerful this deck is.
I can remember myself when I was back at MKM Prague in, I think, 2016, something like that. And I saw Thomas Schmar played against Michael Pilz, one of our fellow players in Austria. And Michael came to me after the match, and he said, "This was insane. I don't know how he did that. He just plays only duels, and I couldn't do anything. My wastelands weren't enough, and my Thalia, and this was just. I haven't beaten so badly in a long time." And I mean, Thomas is a pro player. So this is also, but this was really the birth. This was his baby, the 4-color check pile. and I saw him shuffling it up, and it was just a strange pile to look at.
Yep.
And then Michael got so demolished by this.
Deathred Shaman just doesn't care about any wastelands or ports or whatever. You just have your mana anyways.
Yeah, and one thing that also happened just before the banning of those cards was like the winning of the second GP for the deck from Dragon Stompy, Gary Campbell.
We were there.
We were there. Yes. So Daniel and myself were at Grand Prix Birmingham in 2018.
Absolutely.
I was playing that guy Ale with Lingering Souls and Deathrite Shaman and Stonefish Mystic.
And Dark Confident.
Yeah,
I know this.
Yeah, this was
Because you lost one.
Yeah, I lost a Dark Confident on the Frankfurt airport.
Yeah.
And I had to buy a Dark Confident in Birmingham then.
For 70?
50? 60, yeah.
60.
It was crazy,
Yeah.
Yeah, I
bought my playset for 80.
And during this time, I was so close to getting day 2.
You were playing ANT?
Yes, this was one of my best cases of playing Storm. I just loved this version. It was with Gitaxian Probe, Cabal Therapy, Past in Flames. The straight up, very just without the Senses Vanning Top as it was banned, but so good, so strong. I miss this kind of Storm deck. This was really the Storm deck that I endorse.
Yeah, and one thing that came right after that up was Pro Tour 25 years of Magic the Gathering. It was a team event. It was played, if I remember correctly, in Standard, Modern, and Legacy.
Mm-hmm.
And it was won from Death in Texas, Alan Wu in the Legacy seat. But Philip already said it. This was the time when Death Shadow really came up.
Yeah.
And it was the same in Modern. Gitaxian Probe got banned from Modern, and Death Shadow got the deck.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
And
so
it was
strange.
the same thing in Legacy. Gitaxian Probe got banned, and Death Shadow is now a deck.
But why? I totally don't see this. I mean, Death Shadow with Gitaxian Probe would have been so insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like a meta switch up, and we see here in 12 spot Lukas Schwendinger, for example, team event.
Austrians were pretty good at this game.
Austria was pretty good. Blue-Black Death Shadow, it was like, Water Grave with one of Underground Sea, and then you played Delva, Death Shadow, Goma Gangler, Street Rifts to cycle out, a little bit of green to have better removal with Abrupt Decays, and
Was this, if we have a look at this Josh Atherlayton's list, was this the version? Okay, no, yeah, exactly. This was the tech that I really loved. What do you do against Chalice? You just play a Throne of Gath and proliferate and put the Chalice on 1/2. And then this was the tech against Chalice. I really loved this.
It was really cool.
Yeah.
It was really cool. That's true.
Sacrifice not to proliferate.
Put the Chalice on 2, and this deck just doesn't care about Chalice on 2, to be honest.
But we see here Death in Texas was really on top together with Blue-Black Shadow in the mix, and now we have a second tempo archetype since basically the Canadian threshold was a little bit removed. We only had basically Grixis and Rakdelva and Bugdelva, and to some extent Castlevania Delva, which is Bug splashing for red for the lightning bolts in the main deck, and now we have Death Shadow as another competitor.
Exactly. But I think after this era, for myself at least, Legacy changed quite a bit. For me, after this ban, and this is of course also the decisions that were made for the printing of new sets, we enter now this fire design.
And this was the time that I really hated on one kind. On one side, I really hated it. On one side, it was okay-ish. Up to War of the Spark, the game felt fine. I loved the time when Deathrite got banned. Up to War of the Spark, it wasn't.
It was okay again.
It was. Some people say that this was the silver age of Legacy, actually, everything was viable. There were a lot of decks, and nothing was too crazy actually. And then suddenly, what Spark came?
Yeah, it was a really interesting period. It was the mannerless stretch year of mine, I would say, because like 2018,
It was
I
my dredge year.
Starting with the tempo decks. 2019, I switched it up. Started because also of the Death Shaman band playing mannerless stretch, because this was basically the card that said mannerless stretch.
Yeah.
Are you a joke? So I started playing around with this deck. And yeah, 2019 we had like 2 very, very impactful sets. As Philip already mentioned, War of the Spark.
Yep.
We got now a huge, huge influx of planeswalkers with static abilities, which was a huge change. And we got the first exclusive into modern set, Modern Horizons 1, with cards like Renin 6.
Renin 6, yes.
Yep. And
This is what we classify now as the Renin 6 era, to be honest. Yeah, this is Renin 6 Delva. It dominated everything. It was just crazy. But there was also nice, what I think very nice, check pile version, if we're talking about check pile. Instead of Death Shaman, Thomas now just included 4 Renin 6.
Yeah.
Also a possibility, very nice.
This was also the time where I switched from Dredge to the new card Hogak.
Oh yeah.
It was so insane play. I mean, it totally tore up Modern. It I think it led to 3 bans, or 2 bans at least, Faithless Looting and
Faithless
Bridge from
Looting
below.
was, I think, banned
Bridge
earlier,
also.
but
Yeah,
Bridge,
and they didn't enough,
Hogak,
and then Bridge.
Looting was banned because of Phoenix, but then afterwards Bridge, yes. And what was the
Bridge, Hogak.
Well, Hogak itself, of course, eventually.
Hogak itself is banned in Modern?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So this deck led at least or lost 2 cards and was still the best thing to do.
Yeah.
And so I thought this deck has to have legs in Legacy 2, and then I toyed around with various
It was
Hogak
good.
iterations.
It was good, yeah.
In September, we had like Grand Prix Atlanta, which was won by Cyrus Gorman Gill, what was really memorable on ANT. And we have Tariq Patel, for example, in the top 8 with one of the earliest Hogak shells. It was the green version, which
The
played
bug version.
the bug version, which played Careful Study. And yeah, a really, really interesting deck. And it's played a Hedron Grab.
Yeah. This was actually the reason why you play blue.
Bug deck not also played the black one? Mill free when it dies,
Yeah,
mill free.
Sigil Supply, it's here.
Stitches
Okay,
Supply.
it's here.
This is the best card. This is without this, I think Hogak would be way worse. This
That's
is the
true.
best enabler.
That's true.
Absolutely.
And, basically, there were 2 good Hogak lists. It was Chund and Bug.
But originally, I think Bug was the best, just because it was faster and more reliable to mill or to fuel your graveyard because of this Hedron Grab. And then I think for Chant, the thing that was going for it was that you can flashback looting.
Yeah,
that's because you
had more mid range. You had more grindy games, and you could win out of spots where you couldn't with blue.
Yep.
And the thing is, with the blue versions, you so often had bridges or some cards like that stuck in your hand with no way to discard, and the flashback looting was just such a big problem solver here.
Yeah. And also one thing for GP Atlanta that we have to mention here: since 15 years of the inception of Legacy, we are now at 15 years. A deck that was built up at the first days of Legacy has its first top 8 burn.
It took 15 years and countless tournaments for Burn to really get a good showing.
Yeah.
So it can be good if you're lucky.
I mean, also this list was really great. I loved it. I loved it. Simply 20 mountains, very beautiful.
Simple. Yep.
Yeah, it looks so clean. And the best thing about this is the 4 exquisite Firecraft.
I think this was a pretty recent printing during that time.
I think this
Magic
was
Origins.
Magic Origins, yeah.
And it really helped. It really helped Burn. Don't know if it was the exact year, but it was one of the recent additions to the deck and really helpful against control decks.
And one thing that we have here after the banning of Ren and 6.
Yep.
This was so great.
In November, we have actually the last GP of Legacy. The last Grand Prix.
Yeah.
And we have here a really, really glorious top 8.
Yeah.
For a roundup of the format. We have Marc-Eric Vogt winning the GP on 4-color Miracles.
There are so many people here
That you know.
that we know.
Tristan Pölzl on bug midrange. We have Lorenzo Tassone on bug threshold. We have Andrea Mengucci on bug threshold. We have Franco Cicchini on Blue-Red Delva. We have Andreas Ganz on
Dredge.
On Dredge.
The last GP with the last good showing of Dredge.
We have Matt Brown
On Show and Tell.
and Show and Tell.
Yeah.
He's now a Lance specialist.
He went 8-2 at Eternal Weekend with Cloudpost actually.
Cloudpost, yeah.
And Yannick de Fleurg win on Eldrazi Agro. It's such a great roundup for the Legacy format.
Everything is in it. You have Stumpy, you have Combo, you have Graveyard, you have mid-range control and tempo. Every archetype has its place at Grand Prix Bologna. So this is, if there was a way to really end the Grand Prix series with a bang, it was Grand Prix Bologna.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
It's the showcase of the format.
Yeah.
But we see some small glimpses that will follow soon. On Blue-Red Delva, we have Dreadhorde Arcanists. To spoil it a little bit, and on Marc-Eric Vogt's 4-color control list, we have like a mana fixing artifact in the form of Arkham's Astrolabe and a small little cheeky, squirrely, body showing planeswalker in the form of Oko, Thief of Crowns.
Actually, pretty surprising because it was 2019 and it should last another 2 years until both of these cards will be banned.
But we had a quick
Of all
flirt
of
in
these.
between.
Yep.
With a small card.
Basically, that's also why Oko and Dreadhorde Arcanist and Astrolabe didn't get banned sooner.
Yeah.
Just because of these cards that you will now tell us.
I mean, we had a small little flirt for like a month, 30 days if I remember correctly, with a small enchantment, 2 mana. What could go wrong if my graveyard gets to be flashed back? But stays in it in the form of Underworld Breach. It was like we had a period over a month where the deck was basically incepted, like for the first 1 or 2 weeks, even like, this isn't that great actually, into like, how the fuck can we beat this combo? It was like when they started to play Silences, Orange Charms as protection suites, because you have to remove your hand because of Lines of Diamonds, moving all the cards in your graveyard. Then you basically flashback the escape, the Lines of Diamonds, and then mill your whole deck with Brain Freeze, and then mill your opponent's deck with Brain Freeze. Then basically we found a card that is great action in the list. It's called Intuition, because if you Intuition for like the missing cards and maybe even a Divine Reclamation, so if you are Underworld Breaches in your graveyard, you even get it back. So this boosted the deck insane. Stories tell that it had like over 60-65% win rate on lane, and that's the reason they don't talk about win rates when banning decks, but the deck was insane. It was insane, quickly banned.
Yeah.
But then we got a new printing. Actually, it's called...
But wait a little bit. Before we get into this, something else hit us. Because you had the last, or probably one of the last tournaments with Underworld Breach in Bratislava. And then suddenly COVID hit.
That is true.
then COVID, yeah?
Yeah, no more paper tournaments. It was all shifting to online somehow. Well, first of all, it was completely vanished, but then mostly online and no paper tournaments. That's absolutely correct.
Yeah, and so actually, I didn't really experience the next two things that happened. I mean, I was theory crafting all the time.
It was online actually mostly.
Yeah, because I wasn't really playing online.
Yeah.
But it was also online only for a quick flirt of like I think it was 2 months until
It was completely
the small little pets got banned.
Right.
Basically, with Underworld Breach, another important card for Legacy got released. It was Uro. But then we have Ikoria, the beasts, the small pets, our small little companions that will sit beside us and get played. And we have the release of a few important cards. The two most impactful at start were Lurus of the Great Den, and then Surtur the Dreamwalker. Lurus was the first one that got really toyed with, because like it was really playable for 2 Delver versions.
Yeah.
It was played in Grixis Delver,
Yes.
and then it was played in I think it was Esper.
I think it was Jeskai.
Or
Jeskai, yeah.
Jeska Delver, yeah. So it was toyed then, and then the guys found out like Surtur is insane. Surtur is really great. Surtur, you can play it in a lot of decks because like it says every permanent card in your deck has to have an activated ability, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Which is like cool. Planeswalkers have activated abilities.
Stoneforge Mystic has an activated ability.
Yeah.
Equipment has an activated abilities.
All my lands have activated abilities, and then I play like the monoliths and have infinite mana and do some stuff.
And what the funny thing is, Surtur is, I think, the only companion that you're able to, because Surtur has activated ability itself, is the only companion that you can play as a companion and a free of in a deck.
And now we go to the exception, because there was a third really important legacy deck that features a companion at the time, which was then ruled later on after the companion change impossible to play. Garuda Stompy.
Garuda, yeah.
Ah, yeah, Garuda.
Garuda
Wow,
was
totally
really
forgot about
strong,
this.
yeah.
It was like LED nets it a 3 mana to cast it from your sideboard. Garuda Stompy was a real big player.
Yeah.
We have a few at the first few events. It was like the breakout deck.
And if it wasn't for the companion rule change, Garuda would always be banned at some point, I think.
For sure.
It would not have stayed.
Garuda is still being played a little bit in some Bomberman shells or something like that.
But it's not that strong anymore. It's fair, it's fine.
Yeah, the combo Garuda lists were just insane.
Insane, yeah.
Yeah. And then we go to 2021. And in February, after a whole year of discussion, should we ban this card? Should we not ban this card? Archon's Astrolabe, Dreaded Arcanist, and Oko Thief of Crowns all got simultaneously the X.
In hindsight, I mean, it took them so long to ban this artifact.
Yeah.
This was invalidating mana bases all the time. And people were like, oh, it's not big of a deal. It just draws a card and fixes my mana. I mean, what the hell are you smoking?
Yeah. Do you know what one big thing was like back in the days, that the guys were crying out because they don't want Astrolabe in the format anymore? Do you know what one of the bigger reasons was?
No, tell me.
We want to have normal basics unbanned.
Yeah. They were unplayable, yeah.
Yeah, that's also true. You had to have the shitty snow basics all the time.
You mean the anal plug lands?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, now it's like, if your opponent plays snow cover basics, they do it either out of style or out of
because of Icewind
Quartal, yeah. And I think that's okay. And I would really love for snow cover basics to play a little bit of a better role. But Arkham's Astrolabe was like a nuke.
Yep.
We wanted a grenade, but we get a nuke.
Yeah.
Yeah. But after the banning, we had like also another really important set actually being printed. And
What?
in 2021, the horizon got shifted to the second age.
You know what? This time, these years were
Yeah.
really banger of the banger of the banger.
Yeah.
It was just. This is the era of bannings
Yeah.
that we hit with fire design.
Yes.
We are right in the fire design era. It lasted like 3 years from 2019 basically up to
Now,
2021, 2022. For me,
I'm pretty sure that we
Also-
are still
also,
in
yeah.
fire design, and I'm just thinking that we have sort of
accepted it.
we don't feel it anymore because it's ubiquitous, or it's everywhere, and every set is fire design now, and I'm
Can
pretty
be,
sure
but-
we're used to it.
But I think still they leveled it to an
Yeah, they learned from that.
yeah.
From
It's not
most
that
of the
spiky.
phases,
It's
yeah.
not that spiky anymore at this point. But yes, we are still in this scheme of a lot of things change through one or two impactful sets. That's for
Yeah.
sure. I agree with that.
And
But yeah,
And with Modern Horizons 2, which card was the biggest player? I mean,
up
we had-
until now or at the start?
at the start. I mean, we have now this was the advent of the elementals of the elemental cycle, like endurance, solitude, grief,
yeah,
fury, and subtlety.
yeah.
Subtlety is still not really being played. Yeah,
Yep. I mean, Modern Horizons 2 had so many impactful cards for the format. For example, most of the elementals basically. Endurance got really a big play at front. Fury was a little bit behind. Grief was really fast adapted in Reanimator, but slowly took out. I think in 2022 we had the first few scam variants running around, and Solitude was really fast actually adopted in Death and Texas, because Death and Texas back in the days also started toying around with its
Yorion,
big
the
companion.
Yeah.
But yeah, one of the big players for me is Urza Saga. Urza Saga revived a lot of decks.
Oh yeah.
It was a very big player in making artifact strategies viable. I mean, it had a small flirt with Ragavan, and we had Sagavan in the early days.
Oh yeah, Jessica Sagavan, was
That was
insane. But Blue-Red Delver was still
one
with
of the bigger
Ragavan.
cards actually, which changed a lot about decks, is Dragon's Rage Channeler.
DRC. Little creature
Yeah.
and the best one drop actually. At
This
the
in
moment.
combination with Ragavan also.
Where was Murktide being printed? Was it also?
also in the set? Yeah.
Okay,
also
also in the same
So
set.
a whole new set of threats for Delver. Delver
So
was reinvented.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like at first you
Shoot
had
to the roof.
Delver, Mongoose, and
Yeah.
or some kind of
Tarmogoyf.
You know,
Tarmogoyf.
Well, it was Arcanist before that, or Young Pyromancer
Arcanist and
sometimes.
Pyromancer.
Yeah.
But now suddenly, we banned all the good cards out of Delver. Here, you get 3 new ones.
Yeah.
And this was actually, we had a lot of talk in like 2022, 2020, 2019, if like Delver is the problem, because like if Delver has a too good kind of a one drop that enables the strategy and makes the deck too fast, it's hard. But now
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, because like Delver in this era, 2022, 2021, played 2 Delver or non-Delver,
non-Delver,
with 4 Ragavan and 4 Dragon's Rage Channelers. So you had just too many one drops.
What I really find so disgusting about this version is one of the best tools that you could use to fight these Delver decks was Carpet to Flowers from your opposing side to generate mana advantage that you normally deny. This Delver strategy could play it in such a way that with the Ragavans, they just don't play any allies. Yeah, and they ignore carpet of flowers completely.
And also it killed so many, or it killed single-handedly ant,
Yeah,
as far as I know, because if you flip the 10 rows of egg on it, it's good game.
it is a random chance to just lose. Yeah,
Yeah, it was
exactly.
the day where Doomsday adopted to play 2 Thassa's Oracle because you couldn't afford to lose to one. Besides it already being a bad matchup. And yeah, one of the breakouts of the Blue-Red Delver deck was Eternal Weekend Online, where fellow Austrian competitor Mental Misstep Online Stefan Schütz won one of those events on Blue-Red Delver. Bill Mitchell from the Dark Depths podcast won on Blue-Red Delver the third event, and Jörg Heinrich on Elves, which got recent printing of a small uncounterable elf.
Allosaurus Shepherd.
Allosaurus Shepherd. Oh, yeah.
So
many good cards in the last some years.
Yeah. It's
Look fire.
But Ragavan was banned in the early 2022 because of this nonsense.
And this was really a boon.
It was a nice ban.
This was a boon to the format.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Strixhaven was right around the corner.
and
It continued.
Another toy.
Another toy.
In the past there was this joke like it looks like Dredge got a new toy, yeah.
Yeah,
But now it looks like Delver got a new toy
Yeah.
all the time.
all the time, yes.
And one thing is like we got rid of Ragavan, which was the card advantage engine in there. It got and a lot of the creature decks said, "Thank God it's only Ragavan and not Delver. Like elves, we can block the Ragavan, no issues. We have a good matchup now against Delver." Now Ragavan got banned, and actually it improved a few matchups even with playing Delver again. And now with Expressive Iteration, we have the card advantage engine. And there was a small announcement, like right at the time, that was said, "We're looking at the data, and we will say if if something gets banned afterwards." And then we didn't hear anything from Wizards of the Coast for like half a year.
At least for 6 months, yeah. I think it
And-
was about 9.
One thing also in 2022, there was a small commander set got released.
Yep.
That was like something where you can take the initiative.
Was it Commander Legends or Baldur's Gate? I think it was Baldur's Gate.
Was it Baldur's Gate? Yeah, it should be Baldur's Gate.
Yeah.
And there, a small little Wild Plume adventurer together with an adventurer got printed. And somehow, if you drop like a thing that draws you cards, gives you card advantage, it puts damage on your opponent, gives you creature,
And can't be interacted with.
can't be
Yeah.
interacted with on turn 1.
Good, yeah.
This is really good, am I right?
yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.
And yeah, we got mono white initiative. The deck was be playable only in paper for like 2 or 3 months. There were the first issues with MTG Go coming
And
around.
No one had it on the radar.
Yeah.
No one. Peter Vanderham, if I remember correctly, tested it a lot with a local playing group. But unfortunate for him, it got released 2 weeks before the ELM, where they decided to crush the event. But it got released online. They immediately got first place and second place, if you remember correctly, with the deck. And yeah, Mono White Initiative was here. It was a really interesting era. Do you remember the cyber cards that were played to counter initiative?
How is it called? The Unchained Berserker or something?
Unchained
yeah.
Berserker.
There was also this
Blood
rider.
Knight?
This rider.
Blood Knight.
Blood Knight, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, completely crazy.
Protection from white.
Yeah, yeah.
Who would have
Pro
known
White.
that Pro White was needed or was good?
Yeah. As soon as I saw them, I just bought myself 2 copies because I wanted to be safe against initiative. But luckily, yeah, they turned out to be not for long for this format. I think this is a good ban.
It took for Expressive Iteration about a year, I think, and
Yeah.
for White Plume Adventurer Not that much. I think it was about 6 months.
Half a year or something like this.
A little bit above half a year, I would say.
Yeah, and out of this half year, 3 months of them were just in paper.
Yeah.
So it really didn't took off. We could have crushed so many events if we would have tried this.
True.
Yeah. And one thing also, I think in 2022 got printed or started to being played around. At first from Moonstompy, then from Painter, and then from a lot of other red decks. Is Fable of the Mirror Breaker, which is actually a big card nowadays in the format, because it allows the now red-white initiative to go a little bit wider, have a better card selection. It's a really, really strong drop on turn 1 of Moonstompy. It's the thing that ties basically Painter together.
It was really underrated in the first couple of months because on paper it just looks not that exciting.
Yeah, but it has just so many applications, and the fact that it is a win condition on its own if you get 2 of them out and basically split between your opponent is just.
Personally, I would say the biggest thing that was like not really that respected is like how incredibly strong treasure tokens are.
Yeah, that's true. Treasure tokens are
mana
insane.
ramp, you know.
Yeah, it's ramp, and
Who could have thunk that?
and especially in something like Moonstompy and Painter, which have incredibly shitty mana bases, because most of them, like Moonstompy, it's a monocolored deck. No, it's a dual colored deck.
Yeah, colorless and
It's
red.
colorless and red, yeah. And you giving another red sources and stuff like that is really, really important.
But the thing is here, you said something like
About initiative or about Fable.
About Fable, yeah.
Yeah. It didn't look that great at the beginning, and it was like a mediocre card at the beginning, and not a lot of I for example thought it was just okay, 3 mana. Come on, there is days in the format and Wasteland. What do you want from me?
Yeah. and now I got what I want to say. Things have shifted.
Yeah.
Back in the days, card advantage was king, but now the cards are so much better that it's essential to get to mana to play these cards, and therefore treasure tokens or mana ramp in general has so much more value than card advantage nowadays.
And card quality is something
Is
really
higher.
important.
It's so high now, yeah.
And that's something that
Fable does simply great, yeah.
It gives you the mana ramp to put in like a few or something like that. It gives you the card draw. I mean, it's only Ramage, but you still get to dump your additional lands or like some creatures or artifacts that you don't really need anymore. Like, for example, Moonstompy, additional Chrome Oxen or something like that.
Spheres.
Yeah, and getting to draw like the Rebel Master that you need to win out the game.
This is kind of what you would generally call cheating on the general rules of the game, like having more mana than you should have, having more cards that you should have. These are just mechanics or things that are always very powerful.
And
Magic.
all in one card.
Yeah.
Also a win condition in one card. So
It basically ramps, it produces for 3 mana 2/2/2 bodies, and it basically allows you to switch out 2 cards.
But I gotta say, this is one card I really like about the fire design, because it's not too powerful in my opinion. It's really strong and
It's like Saga.
fine. Yeah, like also Saga is that's what I wanted to say beforehand. Saga is the thing that gets non-blue decks back into the game.
Yep.
Since the banning of Senses Divining Top, non-blue decks were pretty non-existent. I mean, Death and Texas and Maverick, but you couldn't toy around. And now just Saga is the glue that keeps all these decks together.
Yeah.
And with Saga, Painter is again a deck.
Painter is...
Yeah, it wasn't a deck because you killed Divining Top.
Yeah, because like the Senses Dividing Top Goblin Veil detection was insane. and now with Fable, you have so much consistency. In the mid game, you power through. With Urza Saga, you have so much ways to get your combo pieces. With Goblin Engineer and Goblin Welder, you have the perfect duo in the Goblin Brothers. It's so strong what we nowadays have in the format. And for me personally, Urza Saga is like design perfection. It's like, it's a good engine on its own. It does not win you the game on its own. It still needs some form of like additional cards that can help the card, but it has enough of a drawback and needs something from your mana base that it's still vulnerable to your opponent cards. So it's like it has everything in it tied together.
And I think, with this, the remaining rest of the year, we still have had a lot of cards added in the last year, which is still Orcish Bowmasters, one of the mainstays. We have the One Ring, I would say, is on the one highlight. Questing Druid, one of the more recent ones.
I think
what I want to say is still Bowmasters, the One Ring, and
Troll of Khazad-dûm.
Yes, and Up the Beanstalk.
And Up the Beanstalk, yeah.
This was one of the recent
And
additions.
Lauren Wood.
So, but I don't know if since the banning now of early in February in 2023, the format didn't really pile up to be all that, ubiquitous, that some deck is stronger over any other, and we have a lot of cards being added and implemented into the format and soaken up by it, and a lot of decks playing the cards. But so far, we are still stable, I would say.
I think it's insanely fine. It's probably the healthiest that the format looked like since 2018.
Yeah.
And this is a long time, and I really could say if 2018 to Fire Design was the Silver Age, we're now at least in the Bronze Age of Legacy.
And I hope this is a great prospect for the upcoming years, hopefully for the next 20 plus years of Legacy. And I am very curious to see how this format will go in the next couple of years, for sure.
Yeah, I think the one thing that I want to add on to the age of Legacy is I hope it will live long and prosper.
Absolutely.
And I think this was very nice words from you, Peter, to wrap this episode up. If you like what we are doing, consider following us on Twitter or on social media. It's @response_legacy. You can find me on Twitter. It's @PhinikMTG, PhinikMTG. Daniel, where can we find you on social media?
On the same platforms, talking and thinking about the last 20 years of Legacy. It's @FlyingDelver on Twitter. And Peter, where we can find you on social media?
You can find me fascinating about Type 1.5 on Twitter. It's @UnicornLord, but the O in the Lord is a 0. Thanks for listening. Have a great year 2024.
And I hope you will never mulligan again.
And I hope the top deck will live with you. In response, the start of 2024.
This was In Response, a Legacy podcast. If you enjoyed the ride, feel free to support the show by following, leaving a review, or subscribe on patreon.com/response_legacy.